This is a very brief video just to let you see what the project is going to be, what you're going to build. Hopefully it's going to introduce you to some really industrially relevant situations where you're going to see technologies that you would normally perhaps not see, where I know that many colleges visit this sort of project with Access and with some very simple Visual Basic. We're going complex because I think we want to head for those distinctions as hard as we can so that you get the maximum grades that you can. So what we're going to build is we're going to build an application which is based around the idea of a car rental company, but this is a prototype. And your application simply has to do two tasks to do proof of concept. What it's got to do is it's got to record new vehicles into the fleet. But in terms of clients, it's got to do full CRUD. That's create, read, update, and delete. So it has some complexity. And what we're going to do is we're going to use perhaps a slightly different approach to one that you've seen before. We're going to build it with a technology called Windows Presentation Foundation WPF. And our application is called Rental WPF. In terms of looking at the structure of the application, we have a class structure here which is split into data, models, and utility classes, with a couple of classes around here, and some pages. Now the pages of the application are hosted inside a thing called main window, and these pages are launched and closed by the actions that we take within each of the forms and the dealing of the classes that we have here. The presentation of these windows is different. The way in which they are created may be new to you. I know that it isn't for all of you, but it may be new to you. But behind it, sitting behind each of these pages, is the nice, comfortable C# code that you perhaps are used to. If you follow along with all of my videos, you'll build an application that works. So let's now see what this application does. It starts. And it's starting here, and I've got it in the center of the screen. So we do a login. We would remove these credentials at production. Login. And we've got two buttons that we will use. Vehicles. So we can create a vehicle. And we can go back to vehicle home. And then we can go back to the dashboard. And then we can work with clients to create, update, delete, and add an address for a client. Now the clients that are being worked with are being added to and drawn from a database which I'm hosting in Azure on the web, or on the internet, sorry. And these are really straightforward in terms of the same sort of things that you would do with a locally installed SQL Server on your machine. So this is the theory. We have a disconnect between the database, which holds the client data and the vehicle data and any other data that you choose to implement. We have another data source which is going to just be used to represent a login process, which is this, a text file, really sophisticated database. And these are the credentials that we have for people who want to log into the database. So that's really, really straightforward. And then finally, we have a SQL Server which holds, I say, the main database for the application. Now our database in SQL Server is split into tables, which we use extensively, but we don't use all of them. We use client, we use client address, we use client type, we use manufacturer, we use model. We do not use rental, we do not use staff, we do not use staff type, we do not use tariff, we do not use user, we use vehicle, and we use vehicle type. Now what we're also going to do is going to take a slightly novel approach to the way in which we approach the handling of the data. Much of it will be done using stored procedures, and stored procedures are units of SQL instruction that are installed on the server, and the server does more work than the client. Now we're going to use a technology called Dapr, which is an ORM, an Object Relational Mapping System, which allows us to work with these client stored procedures and these vehicle stored procedures with a minimal amount of code. I do at one stage show you how to use traditional SQL code, and you'll see that it is more verbose, not harder, just more verbose than the other types of things that we will be doing with Dapr. So that's our application. It's quite complicated. There's a lot to it. And I think I've got 20 videos or something like that, including this one, for you to view and follow along with. Now, I've got all of these connection strings all over the place for my code because I have to work in so many different places. So that's what we're going to do. In XAML, which is the language behind the presentation part of WPF, we will probably learn new things that you wouldn't have experienced in the past. And these are very straightforward. We follow them logically, and if you follow my videos, you'll see that this all works quite straightforward fashion. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be fun, and you'll get a good application out of it and hopefully learn some good techniques.